How dare they speak against us? How dare they raise their voice against us? Corporations, mighty, mighty old corporations.
I heard you say that you was gonna make a video.
Hey, listen, guys. Listen to me now, okay? So, all these talk about how people come up with stuff. They just come up with stuff like out of nowhere. Like everybody's nowadays. People are into conspiracies. I mean, conspiracy theories, right? Because that means they're not true. They're just people are just making stuff up. They're making these theories, right? And it's all like buhaki. Okay, listen to this now. So I'm moving. My wife and I are moving. So we are choosing a new internet provider, right? So now I'm starting to see these deals. I really wasn't that involved at the beginning because they just said like, you get a 1 gig speed of the internet, and I didn't know how much data we had, but I think it was unlimited. And so now when we started looking into it, they somehow said, first of all, listen to this. They somehow said that we declined 1 gig speed of the internet. So now we suddenly had, for the same amount of money as we started paying before, we had 100 megabytes per second, the speed of the internet, which should be 1 gig, right? But they said we declined it. My wife has no idea that she ever declined this. That's one thing. They have no proof that we declined it. They just said it today in the chat. So we're looking at all different deals on the internet, on on all sorts of different websites, different providers that are available in our area. So we're trying to get the best internet with the best speed and the most data. Or I was thinking that all of them offer at a higher deals, like a higher paid deals, they all offer unlimited internet data, but it's not true. So they're capping the data, and they're giving you these huge deals like 1.2 terabyte per terabyte of data. That sounds like, wow, that's what, like 1,200 megabytes of data. That seems a lot, right? So then they throw those numbers at you. You can do like 500 hours of 4K HD streaming, movies and blah blah blah. Or you can do, I don't know how many emails a day, or how many hours a day you can listen to music or game or stuff like that, right? So they don't tell you that exactly. You don't get the combination of doing like different things, right? So I mean, it seems a lot when they throw these numbers at you, and you think like, oh, I'm not gonna pass that. That's kind of hard to pass, right? And they're saying that only 5% of people, 5% of their customers, they go over. That's one company. I'm not gonna name it, but that's one company that claims that, right? So listen to this now. Here comes the conspiracy, and I don't think it's a theory. You can say it's a theory, but I do obviously. I mean, like, I'm 100% convinced that this is something to do with them, just getting us further into this trap where they're gonna suck more money out of us. Listen, so because they have these caps and they offer you this huge, like 1.2, this one plan had like 1.2 terabyte of data per second. Or wait, was it 1.2 terabyte per second? The speed, gigas? No. Yeah. So, okay, 1,200 megabytes per second. That's 1.2 terabytes per second. That's super fast. That's like a really fast internet, right? So, but the trap here is, of course, you have a higher speed, which means they also eats up data faster. So I don't believe in the 5%. And then they say that after you cap out, they add blocks of data to your account, and then they charge you for that. For 50 megabytes per second, they charge how much? $10. So, and they won't charge you. They said they won't charge you more than $100, additional $100 a month. Now you're paying $70 a month, right? So, and then if you pay $170 a month, that's a big deal. Or even if you're paying $100 or $120 a month, that's a big deal. Out of from 70 to 100, or from 70 to 120, or possibly more. Now think about it. What happened with the pandemic? So many of you, not everyone, sorry, I shouldn't say that, but so many of you are so convinced that this is all in the name of, staying healthy, keeping each other healthy. But listen to this. Here comes the conspiracy, okay? This is an actual conspiracy. 100% sure. Because if you look at the numbers, if you look at how life works, you know, how things are going, then this is an obvious conspiracy. I mean, you gotta be blind, deaf, and possibly mute, you know, to fall for it. So, think about something. First of all, 5G internet was not approved by a lot of communities, right? They were fighting it. Some people say, oh, they're just stupid, they don't understand it, so they're ignorant, and that's why they were fighting against it. Well, not exactly true, because in the scientific community, there's quite a few, you know, circles in science, circles of people, circles of, you know, official scientists that basically are debating whether, you know, we know the long-term effects of 5G radiation or we don't. All right? So let's say nothing is wrong with it. Cool. Everything's fine. 5G is harmless to us. Now, the thing is here. 5G speeds everything up, right? Which means we're using more data because it's more efficient, which means that, you know, you use more data in a shorter time. So because you're doing more stuff, because now you're getting spoiled. Remember, I mean, we're getting spoiled by things, you know. First, let's say when cars came out, you know, people use them on the weekend, you know, to go to the town or, you know, something. Like, how do we use cars nowadays? We use them like almost for every single thing when we step outside of our buildings, right? I mean, almost all the time. Except if you're in the city, but you really have to be connected and have bikes and scooters and all this stuff. But in general, the consumptions and, I mean, the consumption of, you know, in the car industry and stuff just ramped up so crazy. Now the same thing is happening with the internet, and like I said, a lot of communities were not for the upgrade from 4G to 5G. Now when the pandemic came, listen, the schools were empty, the streets were empty, all these harsh, crazy, you know, restrictions came. Nobody could go anywhere. Everybody had to stay home, right? And all this pressure came, and so they were able to install the system, you know, roll out 5G at many places where people did not agree to it, and they did it in secret. You can ask a lot of people that live in such areas. They said they came out nighttime, they started doing this stuff. Even here where I'm at in Seattle, they did the same thing. Didn't ask anybody if we're okay with their work at nighttime. No, they came to our, you know, residential communities and started doing this crap, making a lot of noise, installing things day and nighttime. So for months on end. Now, after that, and in the meantime, they said, everybody stay home. You know, this disease, this virus is very, 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 very dangerous. It's going to kill all of us. So stay home for the sake of, you know, of yourself and each other's health. And what does that mean? Work from home, school from home. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm not talking about sitting at home watching YouTube or, you know, streaming a movie here and there. I'm not talking about like, I don't know, 3 to 5 hours a day of the internet usage, of data usage. I'm talking about hours on end, being on computers, multiple devices at once. Husband, wife, kids doing schoolwork, husband doing the homework, doing the work from home, wife doing the work from home. And what that means that now we got tied into these plans where they're capping data and charging additionally for when you go over. Will you go over with a normal consumption? Most likely not, or very, very, you know, percentage is going to be very low of those people that will go over that cap. But if you push people home, they have to do everything from home, everything moves onto the internet. What happens? We are forced by the conditions they set, you know, the politicians, because the politicians are doing this under the pretense of the health, you know, institutions. But the health institutions are only giving out recommendations. These are not laws, guys. Remember, these are not laws. So the politicians who are probably pocketing the money from these big, huge-ass corporations that are installing these things and are making these things possible for us, you know, the convenience of the internet everywhere all the time, right? So what do you think they do? They make this into mandates, and they act as if the mandates were laws. So suddenly the mandates push us home, tie our hands, and keep us on the computers, on TV, streaming these high, you know, 4K HD content because everything is moving into that direction. Is that not a conspiracy? Are you kidding me? So you see, this is where the theory is not a theory anymore. It's simply what it is. And if you want to see it, it's there for you to see it. If you don't want to see it, you can keep your eyes closed and your head stuck in the sand. But that's what's actually happening. And so now everything is going to be tied to the internet. You know, smart home, smart fridge, smart this, smart that. What do you think that's going to do? And then they can say, okay, if you don't want to pay, cool, you just won't use it that much. So now you're going to have the elite who's going to be able to pay that and, you know, have the luxuries of this life. Whereas a lot of people will be pushed to like, oh, I can't do this much. I can't be on the internet that long. Oh, I can't. So how are you going to run business and be successful from home? Let's say that's going to be the only option if they're going to be doing this to you. And they'll be like, oh, well, you know, if you want to stay home and do all that stuff, you know, you're obviously going to go over that data limit. What's that going to do? You're going to have to pay more. What if you cannot afford to pay more? You see what's happening here? You see? Open your eyes. Open your eyes. This is what's happening. All right? So you are either forced to basically succeed and trample the competition at all costs, or else you're going to live in misery, you know? Unless you're out there in the woods doing your own thing. If that's even going to be possible, of course. I mean, you know how the laws of the land go, because the government always, or somebody, some private owner always claims something. And if the corporations are buying up a whole lot of land, soon you will have not much of a choice where you actually can even be. And they're zoning the cities, they're zoning, you know, countries to certain areas. You know, it's been zoned for quite a while, yeah? There's a lot of like natural areas where you cannot set your foot. You know that, right? It's, you know, that's because the military is there. You can't, as an individual, as a normal person, as a regular person, there's no way you can go there. They won't allow you. There's like, you know, it's private property. It's considered federal property or state property or private property. So you see the limitations are becoming, you're becoming more and more restricted and more tied into these, you know, financial plans, you know, of being a straight up consumer, because there really is no other choice. They're not really giving you any other choices. And they're taking over. The corporations are taking over as they have been taken over. And if you think that the government functions separately from corporations, then you're surely sleeping. And you're in deep, deep sleep. And you're dreaming some other dream, not the one here of the reality. So, because the reality is that the corporations own everything because they deal with money. They pay the politicians to be there. So, all these people that are on TV, all these political puppets, they are run by corporations. They run by those that supply countries, states with money, continents even. So, good luck and look into these things. Start thinking, because it doesn't take much. It only takes a critical mind, you know, and a very sharp sight. And you can see this as plain as it is.